You don't remember a single moment when it happened. There was no dramatic door slam, no clear sentence that said, "You don't belong." Instead, it was quieter than that. It was the feeling of entering a room and instinctively shrinking, lowering your voice, softening your needs, reading faces before speaking, just to make sure your presence wouldn't cost you love. You learned early that love wasn't guaranteed. It had conditions, timing, rules you were never given, only punished for breaking. So you adapted. You became easy, low maintenance, helpful, invisible when necessary. And that adaptation saved you. But here's the paradox no one warned you about. The strategy that kept you safe as a child slowly erased you as an adult. Because when you grow up feeling unwanted, you don't stop wanting connection. You stop believing you're allowed to ask for it. You don't chase love loudly. You wait quietly, hoping someone will finally choose you without you having to disappear first. And the tragedy is this: you may look independent, resilient, even emotionally strong, but inside there's a question that never stopped echoing. If I take up space, will I be rejected? This is not a story about weakness. It's a story about survival and the invisible cost of it. Growing up feeling unwanted doesn't always come from obvious abuse. More often, it comes from that emotional absence. A parent who was physically present but emotionally unavailable. Affection given for achievement, not existence. Attention that arrived only when you were useful, quiet, or impressive. Psychology calls this emotional neglect schema. A core belief formed when a child learns that their emotional needs will not be met reliably. So the nervous system adapts. One adaptation is hypervigilance. The constant scanning of emotional environments. You learn to detect mood shifts before words are spoken. You read tone, posture, silence, because safety depends on anticipation. Another is avoid an attachment. Not because you don't want closeness, but because closeness once came with disappointment. Your system learned needing too much equals rejection. And then there's parentification. When a child becomes emotionally responsible for the adults around them, you learn to be strong early, to self-soothe, to not burden others. Neurologically, this reshapes the default mode network, the brain system responsible for self-referential thought. Instead of asking, "What do I feel?" the mind asks, "What's expected of me?" Identity becomes conditional. Worth becomes transactional. You don't exist, you perform. And over time, this creates an internal rule so deep it feels like truth. I am safest when I am not fully seen. Carl Jung once wrote, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents." But there's another burden rarely named, the grief of the unlived self. When you grow up feeling unwanted, you grieve quietly. Not for something that happened, but for something that never did. You grieve the version of you who could have been spontaneous, needy, messy, fully alive. Instead, you learned restraint. You sacrificed authenticity for acceptance, again, and again, and again. You feared abandonment, not just romantic abandonment, but existential abandonment. The fear of being emotionally dropped once you revealed who you really are. So even rest feels dangerous. Joy feels temporary. Love feels like something you could lose at any moment. You replay conversations. You second guess your needs. You apologize for existing, sometimes without words. This is invisible grief. No one sees it because you function, you succeed, you survive. But survival is not the same as a living. And the cruelest part, you may feel deeply lonely, even when you're loved, because love that isn't chosen freely still feels conditional. These childhood adaptations don't disappear. They evolve. You might notice them as an adult in ways that feel personal but are patterned. In relationships, you tolerate emotional crumbs. You overgive, hoping it earns permanence. You stay too long because leaving feels like confirming your deepest fear. In career, you overperform without recognition. You fear visibility, yet crave validation. You tie your worth to productivity, not presence. In self-worth, compliments make you uncomfortable. Criticism feels catastrophic. You measure your value by how little trouble you cause. In boundaries, you say yes when your body says no. You feel guilty for needing space. You confuse self-sacrifice with love. In emotional regulation, you numb. You intellectualize. You stay calm in crisis, but disconnected in safety. In internal identity, you don't know who you are without usefulness. Stillness feels empty. Softness feels unsafe. But hear this carefully. These are not personality traits. They are coping mechanisms. And coping mechanisms can be witnessed, not judged. Unlearning begins not with self-improvement, but with self-observation. Not fixing, not forcing confidence, but noticing. I learnt this to survive, that awareness alone loosens the grip. Healing from feeling unwanted is not about convincing yourself you are lovable. It's about teaching your nervous system that belonging does not require erasure. This is where inner child reparenting begins, freeing yourself what was missing. Consistency, gentleness, protection. It's where shadow work happens, reclaiming the parts of you that were labelled too much, inconvenient or unnecessary. It's where nervous system regulation matters, slowing down, grounding, choosing safety over performance, and most importantly, it's where you choose softness over survival mode. You don't need to disappear to be loved. You don't need to earn rest. You don't need to minimize yourself to belong. As philosopher Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms. Your healing is not linear, but it is real. And remember this deeply. The goal is not to be fixed. The goal is to become whole. If this spoke to a part of you that's been silent for a long time, consider sharing it, not because it's viral, but because someone else may finally feel seen. And if you want to continue this work together, you're welcome here. You are never unwanted. You are unseen. And that can change.